Hello, and welcome to Building High Performance Cultures, a weekly series where we talk to executives from top organizations about how they've built high performance cultures and how they're leveraging their culture as competitive advantage. I'm Marty Parker, the President and CEO of Waterstone Human Capital, and my guest today is the Executive Chairman of Southwest Properties Limited, Jim Spatz. Jim, welcome to Building High Performance Cultures.
Thank you, Marty, and thank you for the invitation.
We're just delighted to have you. And just a little background, Southwest Properties is one of Atlantic Canada's leading real estate developers, and Jim has led the company for the past 25 years. His first career, however, was as a physician. Jim practiced family and then emergency medicine for 15 years. And with his responsibilities at Southwest, Jim is actively involved in the community, and that's an understatement, I would say. He serves on the board of directors of the Halifax Port Authority, a director of Neptune Theatre, a life director that is, and a member of the Canadian Jewish Political Affairs Committee's advisory board. He's also the founding partner and fellow of the Creative Destruction Lab Atlantic and the Mentorship and Investment Organization for the startup venture capital organizations in the region. He served as the board of governors on Dalhousie University, go Tigers, my son just graduated from there, and
Congratulations.
of Canadian Stem Cell Foundation and the National Executive Committee for the 2017 Governor General's Canadian Leadership Conference. Jim's received numerous awards in recognition for his efforts and leadership, but also he received in 2018 our own Canada's Most Admired CEO Award, and that same year, Southwest Properties also won Canada's Most Admired Corporate Cultures. Jim, just to kick it off for us, tell us a little bit about Southwest Properties and the culture that you and your family have built there.
I'll go back to the beginning. So my parents arrived at Pier 21 in Halifax in 1950 with me. I was an infant less than a year old. And after a year or two working in other people's grocery stores, my father bought his own grocery store, which he turned into a great success for a neighborhood grocery store. Back in the day where stores that weren't supermarkets could be more than just convenience stores. So he had a full meal deal. Grocery store, meat, fish, vegetables, canned goods, frozen goods, everything, that kind of thing. And he grew that business enormously to its limit, let's say. And at the same time was quite embedded in that surrounding community on Morris Street in Halifax, which at that point in time was really a blue collar community. It was not the location that it is today, just near Spring Garden Road and near the High Street, and part of the High Street of town. And part of being embedded in that community was getting to know everybody, getting to know all his customers well, doing delivery. So he'd have a delivery boy. The person was called with a bicycle and a big basket and that kind of thing, so you could get your goods delivered. So the service was good. The products were first rate. The prices were very good. He competed and had to with Dominion stores and Sobeys back then, and did very well with it. And then at a point in time started buying small properties on Morris Street, right around there. And then after, a number of years, and that would be 12 or 14, started to buy bigger things and even started to build things. And eventually, after close to 20 years in the grocery business, he gave that up because his property business had become significantly more valuable and bigger. And from the beginning, he has, similar to his grocery store, had a relationship with his customers that was more than a landlord, in the sense that he cared for them, right? help them if they had some trouble. Like if somebody didn't pay the rent because they lost their job, they didn't get evicted right away, he'd try to, work with them, that sort of thing. And that culture of embedding yourself in your community and your customer base also translated to the organization that he was starting to build. And it was very, very small at the beginning. It was, when I joined the business, it was inside a 1-bedroom apartment. So there would have been me, my dad, and 2 other people in the head office, let's say, and then superintendents, and then some odd maintenance people. But from the beginning, the sense of caring for the people that you work with beyond being an employer that gave them a check every week has been a basic value for our company. So if you look at today, and we employ many, many more people, if you work for Southwest, you feel like you are part of something that's more than a good business. It's not quite a family, right? Like we're not all getting together every night for dinner, that kind of thing. But there's a sense that we care about you beyond you putting in your hours and doing a good job. And I think that creates enormous value for a business, because a business needs a number of things that need to succeed. It needs leadership and vision. It needs enough financial resources. And what it especially needs is good human resources. And I think that sense that if you have, first of all, we want you to be healthy, and we've got programs around that. And I just got off my bicycle, and some of my cycling buddies are some of the folks at Southwest. So, we do that. We actually started to organize a Cabot Trail ride every September, and it got up from 2 people to start to about 30 people. We organized it out of the Southwest office. We get 5 or 6 Southwest people. We're all committed cyclists, but that is just a small taste of caring that people have balanced lives, try to be healthy. If they get, and everybody does, at some point in time, some sort of challenge. My background as a doctor, it's funny. People come to me in the organization because it's tough sometimes to navigate the medical system. Now, I'm a very rusty doctor, but I was a pretty good one, and I often can help them, because I still have friends who are doctors. I can often help them navigate their way through the difficulty of access, let's say, or getting the right care, that kind of thing. And not that I'm not the company doctor at all, but there is a sense at Southwest that beyond what you do at the office, if you have issues in your life, and who doesn't, that need help, we'll try to help you. And I think that goes to the core of our success, actually, how we attract good people, why they want to work for us, why they, in huge numbers, stay with us, right? We don't have a lot of people leave us. We have people sometimes get in touch, and we've actually hired a number of excellent employees who have been with us for, a number of years now, who approached us, right? Who, sent me an email and said, I wonder if you'd have time for a cup of coffee. I'm thinking about a career change, or I just left a job. And we've hired a few people that way that have turned into excellent employees. So that's where you want to be as a company. You want people to want to work, especially to want to work for you, especially if in a time when the demographics shift, and a lot of that boomer generation, shrinks, which has already happened and happening, and attracting good employees is always critical. You want to be viewed as a great place to work. Coupled with that, we try to do excellent work. And if you try to do excellent work, that's attractive to excellent people, right? Excellent people don't want to, they're not going to be satisfied by doing something that's just okay, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
brought up your former career as a doctor, as I did early on, but medicine, real estate, and property management is not the most linear or common career transition.
No,
So
it's
other than
not at
family-
all. And I'd be a rare bird, even though there are some other successful business people who started as physicians, but I would be a rare bird. Here's the one thing that I'd say that perhaps, and I wouldn't take this one too far. You do need an education in what you do, truth be known. And, stitching up cuts is not really connected to building buildings. But here's the one thing. So I ended up doing emergency medicine. I ran an emergency room, a busy emergency room in Montreal. And the piece that I learned from that is that when you make decisions, it's good to not dawdle too much. Don't just put them off, right? But the idea that you need to quickly assemble the information that's available and move in a direction is something that, that you need to especially to be a good physician, but to be an emergency physician where there is that pressure of time to get the information, make a decision, keep moving forward, is something that I brought with me. I don't know that I brought that much else. I brought growing up in my father's house, right, and watching him, buy and build, apartment buildings and grow the business and be successful. And in a funny way, I mean, when he had that grocery store, he would say to me, and I remember specifically, when these kinds of conversations would happen. So he was one of the hardest working people I've ever known. He'd be working like, I don't know, 14 hours a day, if you believe that. But Sundays were closed, right? You weren't allowed to open your store on Sunday. But he'd be in the store for a number of hours, cleaning the place and scrubbing the meat cutting counter, wooden counter, and he ran a meticulous business. And he would say to me, this is what I need to do for a living, but you need to get a good education and do something better than this, right? You need to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. But notwithstanding that, he'd always take me around to construction sites on the weekends when he didn't have a grocery store anymore, and we'd walk those concrete stairs, before there was an elevator in the building, and he'd show me when he was looking at buying something how he looked at it. So I had a good mind for quickly getting information and decisions and an attitude towards that. And then I grew up in my father's house, and yeah, it's not very linear, but here's why I did it. So walking those freshly poured concrete steps up a building, and then getting to look at the view before there was anything, on the walls, just columns and total view, before anybody had, put the wrong skin or the wrong windows in and messed it up. And the possibility of doing beautiful buildings was something that hooked me at a very young age, even though I went off and got that education and did emergency medicine and loved it. I had this other itch that I finally had to scratch, and that's why I came back.
Jim, you talked about people who reach out to you, and that's in terms of looking for employment or a career change, and clearly that is a good place to be. On your side, however, how do you assess fit? How do you know that they have the same kind of commitment to excellence and the same type of values that others who've been
Yeah,
successful have?
yeah. I mean, that's a critical kind of question. Um, Beyond technical competence, how do you assess fit, and what value do you put on fit? I do this course at Harvard Business School for a week every year for the last 15 plus years. And one of our best professors is a guy named Boris Groysberg. And, and beyond the Harvard Business Review, you'll read him, in Diff Stanford and MIT publications. His area is HR. And he talks a lot. We have cases, of, the sales organization that has the guy that does 60% of the sales, but he's a terrible fit in the organization. He treats people miserably, he denigrates everybody else because they don't do as good as him, that kind of thing. And then what do? He's doing 60% of your sales. We actually, and that's a good thing to learn. What do? And we actually had an experience would ended a couple of years ago, of somebody who did an amazing job for us in terms of technical skills, but never really fit well inside the company. And we put up with it because it was a critical job. And the people that worked for him, he almost created a separate, and he'd socialize with them, less with the whole group, kind of thing. And inside of us there was a dozen people that were in this group, and they did good work for the first while, and then it didn't go well at all, and then we terminated them. And I said to myself, I've taken all these courses from Groysberg. I should have just, because when we were hiring him, the HR guy we used, and you know how it is, sometimes you have a short list and sometimes you have a very short list. And not only did we have a very short list, but technically we knew he was very competent. He was working for someone else. He approached us, actually. He was working for someone else because we were doing a lot of, Marty projects. He approached us, and we didn't just hire him. We were at a point where we needed to refill that position, and so we did a search, and he applied, and it was a very short list, and he was obviously technically competent. But the HR firm we used, one of the owners who ran this search for us said, "Are you sure? Like, he's not a fit for you, right? He doesn't, And I said, I think, we can control it. But you know what? His values were not aligned with our values. And it didn't end well. It didn't end well. So how do you assess that? I think, you want to get enough people to see someone that you're thinking of hiring, to get a group consensus. I think it doesn't want to be one or two or even three people. You want to run them by a number of people, including some of the people they're going to work with, and you need to, go with your gut to some extent. I mean, we do all the testing and that kind of thing, and that's very valuable. But when you put all that together, at the end of the day, did I know that and it's not that I didn't like him and we got along okay and we'd have lunch sometimes, but did I know that really his values didn't align with ours? Yeah, I knew. I probably knew that from very early on, but we tolerated it because he was like that salesman that did, 60% of your sales. So yeah, I think that large numbers of interviews, if you have the right group of people, they'll know, more than just one. And doing all the testing and then sticking to your guns with regard to the great importance of people that align with culture. When you have a good culture, don't mess with your culture. That's what Groisberg was talking about. Here's a company with good culture. There's a guy inside that's very valuable. He's messing with the culture. What do you do? That's the question. And everybody knows the answer. As painful as it is, you can't mess with your culture. You can't mess, because the people who are good won't be as happy, right? And if you start to lose them, too bad for you.
Jim, when you think ahead now with this,
Mm.
I don't even know what to call it, paradigm shift, transition that we're all experiencing in with the workplace impacting our,
Mm.
our
Mm.
how we live.
Mm.
What do you see as the impact that it will have in the real estate business? I mean, what are the thoughts that you and your team have kind of concluded?
It's really interesting. I mean, people will, if you look at work from home, which is huge now, and we're on a Zoom call, and I'm on Zoom calls. I have Zoom days. I don't know about you, where yesterday, and I'm not working that hard. I'm not complaining. But yesterday, my first one was at 8:30, and there was one after the other till 4:30, and people are getting a little bit of Zoom fatigue, Zoomitis. I guess in my medical career, I'd call it Zoomitis. But it's something that isn't going away. I don't think it will eat the world. I think the desire for and value of human interaction is still very, very big. And I think that will mostly, though not entirely, come back. The best thing I heard was this accelerated a trend, and that's what a crisis does. It takes existing trends and accelerates them. So this accelerated a trend away from the office to working from home by about 5 years. But had COVID not happened 5 years from now, offices would not have disappeared. So my sense is that work from home is here to stay, but most people will have some balance and work from home some of the time, work from a satellite office some of the time, work from a traditional office a lot of the time. So I don't think that will um, um, change in enormous ways, but it'll change. And the way people think of and use office space will change, no doubt. And the volume that is needed will likely settle out, going down, I think, but I don't think it's going to fall off a cliff. In the short term, the wind blowing in the other direction is the idea that when people get back to their offices, they're not going to want to share that office, right, with someone else, right? They work from home and then they're in the office 2 days a week. They're not going to want to share that office. They're going to want to be distanced. All those things, right, will work in the other direction. Eventually, the pandemic will be gone. Offices won't disappear. They will likely be a smaller footprint, but will still be the most important place where people, go to work. But on the other side of it, so we're just designing this building that we're going to build next to Bishop's Landing, Kennard, and we very much are looking at our units saying, okay, what are we doing with this unit to make this a good place to work from home, right? So we're doing, one bedroom and den, kind of where the den can be a place where a guest or your kid can sleep because it's got a Murphy bed, or it can be a den. You can watch TV there, or you can work from that space, and it's just a great adjacent to your great room space, your living, dining, kitchen area, views of, out the window. Of something nice, because we tend to build buildings in nice places. So we're very much thinking about how do we tweak our units, Are people going to want slightly bigger spaces? How do we tweak our amenity space? So in our big buildings, we've got fabulous amenities. They're usually thought about in terms of exercise, entertainment, that kind of thing, getting together with people, swimming pool, hot tub, gym, that kind of thing. But we're starting to think about what are we putting in those amenity spaces so that if somebody is working from home, they can have a meeting. We can give them a boardroom that will be really 3 small boardrooms that can open up into one big one, that kind of thing. We're thinking about what can we do to facilitate work from home, because it's grown, it leapfrogged, it skipped from grade 5 to grade 10 in one fell swoop. So we're thinking about how can we make our buildings good places to work from home.
Yeah. And you do have exceptional locations that you build, but you also build exceptional buildings, and you've had a big impact on the landscape of the city that I once lived, and I have family there, and it's that's something that not very many people can say. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Marty. Thank you. Yeah. It goes back to the very beginning of Southwest. If you build good buildings, you can attract good tenants. Or if you run good buildings, you can attract good tenants. And if you don't, you're not going to have good tenants. And if you don't have good tenants, too bad on you.
Jim, I've got one final question for you. And that is, if you were speaking today to a young person or someone who's looking to kind of start their high performance culture journey, building an organization or leading someone else's, what's the one piece of advice that you'd give them?
You need to treat people well and fairly. Yeah, you need to engender loyalty and alignment. If I had to say it in just a few words, I'd say just be nice. Be a nice person. That's a hard thing to learn, by the way. You got it or you don't. It goes back, to when, yeah.
It's values. And as you said today, do excellent work.
Care,
yeah. Person. Those don't sound like complex business speak kind of platitudes, Jim. They sound like, do the right thing, do it really well, and do it with a smile on your face. And that's an interesting business philosophy that I think even the likes of Boris Grosberg and Harvard might be able to do as well as you can. So we thank you for that.
Yeah. Thanks, Marty. Thanks for the nice chat. I've enjoyed it.
Listen, thank you to our most admired CEO of 2018 and Executive Chairman of Southwest Properties, Jim Spatz, today. We've learned a lot, and we're just very, very blessed to have you with us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marty. Have a good one. Take care.
Join us next week for another episode of Building High Performance Cultures. And in the meantime, if you want to learn more about the subject, please go to waterstonehc.com.